Welcome back. Welcome to another edition of Nain Shorts. Very small niche of people that train, people that we know, people that support us. Thank you very much for all of that. Without you, we wouldn't be doing this anymore. But the martial arts is something that's very near and dear to my heart. Something that I fell in love with the moment I started training. The bug bit me and I was done. I'm stuck in this, and I'm gonna keep doing it for as long as I physically am able to. And when I'm not, I'm gonna criticize the shit out of young people because I can't beat them up anymore, but I can definitely talk shit about what they're doing. And that's sort of what this conversation is today about. Not the talking shit part. I just want to be a cranky old man at one point, and I want to be healthy enough to be a cranky old man at one point. But the martial arts itself has gone through so many changes. Just the stories that I hear from older practitioners about how things used to be, the difficulties that they went through, the hardships, the bruising, the blood that was shed just on the mat for training alone. It was very rigorous, a hell of a lot more rigorous than it is today. Now, the whole scope of society has changed so much, and I'm not trying to get anywhere near the politics of it all, or share too much of my own personal opinion on that side of the conversation, but rather I just want to pose the question of how much have things really changed, and is it for the better or for the worse? Now, in my personal experience as a practitioner and also as an instructor, you see a lot of benefits in the people that stick with it. You see a rise in confidence. You see a change in their demeanor. They seem more comfortable in their own skin. We've had a group of young ladies that have been training with us for almost 2 years, and at the beginning, very emotional. They'd get hit and they would cry. Now they're just beasts and will happily play with a full-grown male and not bat an eye. Sure, it hurts, and sure, they might cry a little bit afterwards in open sparring, but they stick to it. They still fight through the whole thing. They still do what they need to do, and to see that level of growth as an instructor is awe-inspiring because it really is them who are putting that effort forward. But through the martial arts, that was the vehicle that they found to gain that confidence, to gain that knowledge, to be able to feel more comfortable walking down the street and feel a little bit safer, even if the idea isn't that they are going to go around and beat somebody up, merely just being aware. Somebody recently said in a video that the idea of training with a knife, carrying a knife, is less about having something to defend yourself against, but building this environment where you are now more aware of those possible dangers. If somebody's really trying to hurt you, you see their fist ball up, you have the physical sort of markers that people go through when they're about to attack or when they're getting angry or they're getting upset to a point. Even I recently had a situation with somebody like that, and I found myself almost matching that energy and realizing, what am I doing? Why am I getting agitated over this when I can just calm down? Because if he's going to attack me, he's going to attack me, and that's the end of that. But I'm not going to add to that situation. So all these benefits that have come through training. And do we feel like because of the change in environment that we're losing some of those benefits, or maybe those benefits are taking a little longer to develop because we don't have a lot of the hard-hitting styles that we used to, or the way that things were trained before? Because I will say, based on the stories and information and studies that I've done, it was very almost militaristic in the way that some of the schools went about doing things. They wanted to build these tough and hard knock kind of individuals, which made it very difficult for some women to kind of grow through that process and gain notoriety or gain their black belt. So that generation is very difficult for a lot of women, again, based on the stories that I've been told, to get any higher. So of course the environment had to change to a certain degree, but has it changed too much? Have we become too lax in the way that we train? our students, and are we doing them a disservice by not preparing them to the point where they know they're going to get hurt in a fight, where they're better off avoiding and mitigating their own emotions to the point where they don't escalate a situation. And if they do get attacked, it's because that person attacked them with very little provocation, if any. Because we also live in a society where everything is recorded, everything is on camera, and the narrative is constantly changing depending on who is in front of the camera or the person behind the screen that edits the videos and puts them together to look a certain way. So there's a lot to be said about the transparency of information. And have we lost a bit of the training aspects that we did back in the day, even before my time? Can we supplement them in any other way to really get back all the benefits that come from martial arts and make it more accessible to other people? And as we're having this conversation, I'm wondering, are there even enough people who are interested in the martial arts to begin it? And we all have seen the statistics of 1,000 people joining martial arts by year one, like 80% of them are gone. By year two, 80% of those are gone, or something like that. I don't remember the numbers specifically, but a large number of people don't go past second or third belt, simply because, life gets in the way or just loss of interest. Like, it doesn't work for them. So, one of the reasons why this show talks a lot about training and how to get a broader scope out to a larger group of people is so we can get that information to those that maybe quit because they didn't understand it or weren't progressing as quickly as they hoped to have progressed through that particular art. And I don't mean just they pay money and you give them a belt and they feel confident and all that. No, that McDojo stuff, that's not what I mean. I mean genuine information that's going to help them develop themselves, just like we've seen with some of our students, just like I've seen with the students that we have, just as I've seen with myself and the changes that I've gone through as an individual person through my training. To see those positive changes in other people and to effectively do so through martial arts, keeping their bodies engaged, keeping their minds active, and joining the two together. I'm not saying it's the only avenue to personal growth, but it definitely is the one that I would advocate the most, because you also learn how to protect yourself along the way. So it's not just the mental aspect of it, but the physical aspect that comes from it. And I will advocate it to my dying day that it is something that we truly, truly need. So how can we as a community of martial artists come together and make this accessible to everyone? And I don't mean available. I don't mean just, it's there and if people want it, they can have it. No, I mean accessible in the sense that what we say and how we teach these people, regardless of where they come from, whether they're tall, whether they're large, whether they're small, whether they're young, whether they're old, that they understand. They understand well enough that they can perform. Because if they can perform it, then they're more likely to keep on doing it because they feel accomplished in their own way. Not necessarily being told what to do, but how they could do it better. Just guiding them so they can become the best version of themselves that they can be, regardless of their limitations or whatever other things that they have going on. Now, it's a slippery slope because there are some instructors that become essentially psychiatrists and are there listening to a lot of issues from a student that really have nothing to do with the mat. So definitely the idea of keeping everything at the door, not just your ego, but maybe also your trials and tribulations. And when you're on the mat, it's there to not think about that stuff. It's there to learn something. It's there to get a good exercise, or it's there just to be amongst like-minded people. Again, there are different ways that we can approach this idea, and I don't think any which one is right or wrong. I just think we need to have a broader conversation as a martial arts community on how are we going to keep this alive? How are we going to keep this so everyone can enjoy it, so a larger group of people can take it with them. And even if they're only there for a year or two, it still changes their lives. We've heard stories from grandmasters talking about, oh, I met this one student who I haven't seen in 20 years. They were with us for maybe 2-3 years, and then they had to leave due to family or whatever, and they still remembered them. They still said, GM, how are you? Or professor, because at that time, that's their rank. They were just a professor. And 20 years later, they're a grandmaster, and they still remember them and still come up to them and thank them for the efforts and the time they put into helping them develop. Because ultimately, that's what we really are. We're teachers. We guide students, or at least that's what we're supposed to be doing. And we're not guiding them to be clones of ourselves. We're not guiding them to be a representative of your school. We're guiding them to be people, or the best or better version of who they are now. And at least I think that's my personal approach to things. And I hope it works out, and I hope I can do something more with it in the future. But for those of you who have already gone to that point, who have a school, who have a large number of students, how do you view it? What are you to them, and how do you hold yourself to that standard? And how does that affect your students? Where are the positives? What are the negatives? How can we fill in the gaps so there's more positives than there are negatives, and we can get these students to grow in such a way that it becomes meaningful? Maybe not as meaningful as it is to us, but enough that they do become a better version of themselves. Because, like I said, for me, martial arts is that vehicle, and I hope to share that vehicle with as many people as I possibly can for as long as I can, and there is no way that I can do it by myself. So I need your guys' help. If information is all you can offer, please share it with us, because the more we can get out there, the more ideas, the more possibilities, then we can keep martial arts alive for a long, long time and pass it down to generations, and they can do with it what they choose to do at that time as their social climate allows or is, in need of. Because I know right now we need it. We need that stability. We need that calm mind, that rational thinking, that poise under pressure. All these things I think are very important characteristics to have that many people need, and they're not actively searching for it. So if we can provide it, well, how? How can we do it better? That's all I'm saying. So thank you for joining me on another one of Nain Shorts. I hope you enjoyed this one. Like, subscribe, share. Kind of just me ranting on my own thoughts of martial arts and how important it is to me. And if it's important to you, please let me know how we can keep it going for as long as we possibly can. Thank you, and until the next one, 3, 2, 1, cut!